The car. You were building the car?
Yeah, but the car.
Build the car? Valera, what'd you do?
Build the car. Help my dad build the car.
Yeah. You learn about push rods and lifters and everything?
Yeah. I want the Firebirds to make.
You want the Firebird to make?
Yep.
And the GTO?
No.
What about the Dodge Charger?
Yep.
Yep. You want the Dodge Charger?
Yep. I want a Dodge Charger of my own.
Oh, well, work hard and you'll get one. All right.
And Charger.
You want a Charger too?
Yeah, please. And then I want to do the, I want 3 make.
You want 3 make. You want to build lots of cars.
Yep.
All right. Well, in this video, we as a family work on our family vehicle, and it is the coolest family vehicle.
A Buick estate wagon.
Yeah, much better than a
Firebird.
No, Firebirds are pretty cool, but this is much better than a boring minivan, right?
Yeah, it's more roomy here. And more classicer.
More classicer. Yeah. And people tell you all the time that it's a cool wagon?
Black.
Oh, you want it to be black?
Yep. Like black. Or black and white stripe.
Oh,
No.
like the Firebird.
Black is black something. Black is.
What about white?
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, white?
Yep. Turn to Mustang.
Oh, Mustang too? Whoa! All right. So, we're going to get to work.
Yep.
Lots and lots of work.
Yep.
Air cleaner obviously has to come off. The water pump pulley has to come off. Upper hose has to come off. Lower hose, I'll show you in a second what I did. But because the radiator, I hope, doesn't have to come out. Again, I'm familiar with Pontiacs more than Buicks, but I'll just show you what I'm doing as I do it. I just take the entire clutch off with the fan, and then when I pull, there's 2 bolts right here, one and one over there. And then when I pull the shroud, then the whole thing comes off, and I put everything in a big box, try to keep it organized. That's kind of the key. I connected the battery terminal, disconnected my coil wire, have an 1 1/8" socket on a breaker bar against the frame rail, and I'm going to bump my starter. Hopefully it loosens up the harmonic balancer bolt, which is not reverse thread on these Buicks. Using this harmonic balancer removal tool. Moving along. Nothing really spectacular or fancy about this part. Just, you know, just one of the many things you got to remove. Really, with any kind of repair like this, it's not about knowing exactly what to do. It's about knowing that you could do it with simple hand tools. I've removed all the bolts. Here's a tip. If you're like me, you don't know what's going on with a specific engine, whatever it is. What helps me is, I don't know which bolts are for the water pump. There's a lot of bolts, right? I don't know which ones are for the water pump. I don't know which ones are for the timing cover, right? And I just went ahead and found a picture on eBay of a 455 bare block. And what that bare block would tell me is exactly where the holes are for the bolts that go all the way through. And there's also 4 bolts that go through the pan into the timing cover. So, and I was just able to I missed a bolt earlier. So I caught that bolt without prying on anything, cracking this aluminum cover, nothing. I was able to know for certainty. I'm only 99% sure, right? But I'm pretty sure I got all the bolts. Okay. There you go. Well, the timing chain is pretty straightforward swap itself. As you take two bolts, these happen to be half-inch socket size, and you pull off the top sprocket, and you'll be able to then take tension off the bottom sprocket. And in my case, it's a little tight, so I had to use a puller to pull the bottom timing sprocket off. But putting them on is easy. You don't have to worry about accidentally turning your crank, you know, a quarter turn one way or another. It doesn't really matter, because when you put the timing set back on, the new set or the old set if you're reusing it, you just line up the two dots. Timing cover is all clean. Timing set is brand new. And I'm changing the valve seals. I did 1, 2, 3, 4, and on the 5th one I mistook one of the compression strokes for the resistance on the rope. There's the rope right there. I didn't want to force the piston if it was rope. Well, as it turns out, that piston was at the bottom. I was really just compressing another piston. So I guess now we know. The trick to the rope trick is you got to pull all the plugs. That way the only resistance is the rope and the one cylinder you pack full of rope. Yeah, so now I have to risk a head gasket failure, because as many of you know, pulling a head and then just replacing the head gasket, it's not that simple. As in, oh, I mean, I could pull the head, that's simple. Put it right back, that's also simple. What's not simple about it is the fact that there's a good chance that gasket won't seal without machine work, and I don't want to do machine work. I'm only pulling one head. All right, so the head's off. The bores actually look really good. So that doesn't confirm or deny anything, but what it does tell me is that there's hope. There is hope that after we change the head gasket, clean all this up. Here's the valve, by the way. Seems good. So I'm gonna go ahead and change the rest of these gaskets. Stock ports, completely unported heads, nothing. Here's a fun fact. So yeah, but it was a little tight going in. I guess this was a little flared, but there's no play whatsoever in the valve guide. So are they clean valves? Absolutely not. But it's not something I need to worry about. Oh, the police. Let's see what they have to say. PT. This is not factory. No way this is factory.
And you have to get a new one?
Right, but what I'm saying is those are not 80,000 original miles. This motor's been rebuilt.
How is it rebuilt?
Well, it's not, at least some of it's been rebuilt, because that's not the factory gasket. I don't think so anyway. I'll look it up.
So if it's rebuilt, that means
It's newer.
someone took a new thing and put it on.
Lots of new things probably. This might not even be the original motor.
Fix your tools.
Fix your tools.
I want to fix your tools.
You want to fix with the tools, okay? The water pump, don't touch that.
Why?
Just hold it, okay? So put a new bala.
Wait.
Wait. okay, it's okay, я держу.
Ой, it's some.
Да, будешь? Да. Вот так, вот так вот.
Ой, it's the Bob,
Что, Луки?
line.
Да, he's using your wrench.
Bob is line. Bob,
Что, Луки?
oh, sorry.
Молодец. Okay, now I'm gonna take it out. Right there. Do this one.
Bob is line. Wait, line.
Да, go ahead, давай. Okay, now I'm gonna take it out. Держи. No, hold the wrench. Я не уронил.
Wait, it's line.
Ratchet.
This. Huh?
It's a ratchet. But that's a radiator.
Radio.
Да, radiator. Давай. You can do this one.
Wait,
Okay, you need my help. Давай.
wait. Bubble. Uh-huh. Bob.
Это new. Water pump.
Bob.
You just one. Stop tapping yourself. Use it. Вот это что вот это?
No. The Bob.
Да, okay. Вот это.
This is so the car doesn't overheat.
Wait.
So, I know. Let me pull it out. Hold it. Hold the ratchet. Hold Luki's ratchet. Don't drop it.
Wait.
Oh, this one's longer.
Wait.
Hold it.
Bob. Oh no. With this right. Wait.
All right. You want to do another one? It's this one right here.
We need to screw this one.
To unscrew that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Valera, see the tip? It moves around. And when the tip moves around, that means the bearings are bad. The bearings are the things with the balls in them. Means the balls are worn out and they're loose. And when the balls are bad, that means the seals are gonna go bad soon. Which means it's not leaking yet, but it's gonna leak and we're gonna be stuck in a desert with an overheated engine.
And waiting till it cools down.
And then putting new water in it. And then driving very little and then again it'll overheat because there's gonna just kind of leak the water out again. Okay, давай, let me do these. You can watch. Stand next to Luki.
I need.
Oh, you need your plastic jug. Here, Luki, you can have your ratchet. Молодец. I'm just gonna use mine. У тебя ratchet, да? So, ты валеру Валя там. So, while you're doing that, quiz time. The thing in the middle that spins the whole engine, it cranks the whole engine. What's it called? The starter cranks it. Well, the starter cranks the flywheel, but
Don't know.
crankshaft, right? Okay, and the crankshaft spins the chain on the timing chain that spins the camshaft, right? And what is the camshaft? What does the camshaft lift?
The lifters.
All already gave you, there you go, the lifters. I already gave you a clue. And what do the lifters push?
The push rods.
Oh, I'm making it too easy for you with clues. Okay. And what do the push rods push? I'm not going to give you clues. The rockers. Oh, the rockers. I didn't even have to say what the push rods rock. Oh, and
some things I don't remember, some things I do.
Okay. And what do the rockers push?
The rockers push the valves?
Yeah, the valves. But what do the valves have wrapped around them to push them back?
The valve seals?
No, that's to keep oil from coming down the valves, which is what we're changing. Valve springs. The springs push the valves back. So you need tighter springs to run higher RPM to be more of a race motor. But tighter springs, they wear out the camshaft quicker and everything else, so you have to rebuild the motor quicker. Plus you're running higher RPMs, so the motor doesn't last long. But this motor lasts a long time because it's not a race motor, it's just a really big, cool motor. All right, so the Buick's almost back together. I got new head gaskets, everything is torqued. The head itself is torqued in the proper sequence, so 100 foot-pounds of torque. I'm excited. We got a new water pump. I went ahead and instead of putting the coil and everything else back on, I went ahead and put on the HI distributor that I was excited to use, and only to discover as I was getting ready to wire it up, because it slipped right in, right? I was like, what is this gray stuff right here and right here? And then I look on this other side, and like you got these weird elongated doohickeys. Long story short, this is a 6-cylinder cap, but that's an 8-cylinder shaft. I counted the magnets on the pickup and the signal or whatever, and I mean these would be universal, so that doesn't matter. But the pickup, the magnetic signal generator deal, well, that's for an 8-cylinder. So somebody, and there's 8 wires, so somebody put the wrong cap on it. I'll contact them and let them know. But meanwhile, our grocery getter needs to be running again. I can't be asking the neighbors for favors, and so, which is also why I know some of you asked why I haven't changed the rod bearings, why I haven't changed the crank bearings, the main bearings, why I haven't changed, for example, the rings, which are probably at the minimum loose, right? And so this is the cap off my 69 Charger, which is undeserving to be stripped for parts, but unfortunately, you know, groceries and prescription medication for Luke kind of take priority. So, I mean, we're not out, but I'm just saying that you need to have a family vehicle. You can't just be hanging out in the trailer park with no vehicle, even though the neighbors are very friendly. So this is specifically why I do HEI. Not the best, but it is very adequate, is a good way to describe it. And the thing with HEI, if you have it on all of your project cars, you can then borrow parts from one to the next when people ship you the wrong thing. Or I could have put on the points distributor, but you know, I figured instead of bolting the coil and bracket back on, I could put it in a little box and put it in the trunk for emergencies and just have HEI ready and see if I get better gas mileage. See, Valera? Look, this is the other pulley. And then you have to stretch it like this. See? And then they don't fall off. Okay. Let me see, what'd you do? You done? Okay, let me tighten this up and I'll show you. Hey! No! Okay, so remember those studs we put on? I showed you how to pull them off with the double nut. Okay, well, those studs are still down there.
And we need to turn them up.
Okay. Nah, you're making music. Just don't make music on the car, because then Dad has to fix all those holes. I need you to get in the driver's side and pull the thing so I can control the spark, because I still got to time it.
Okay, go.
Okay, try it. Let go. Back. Family wagon is back together. It runs decent. I wouldn't say great. Overall, we have made it reliable. I changed the front tires out before heading out on a 400-mile trip to pick up a differential that I'm using to mock up customer orders for that Super 8.8 swap kit that I designed for Datsuns. But aside from all that, the Buick itself, it runs pretty good. It still eats oil, but not as much oil. So the valve seals were changed, but the rings are still, they're either stuck or they're just loose because they're worn out. We had the kids and I had a great time rebuilding this thing. Stressful at times because it's the only running family vehicle, but it's back together. A lot of you asked why I didn't do the cylinders themselves or the main bearings or anything like that, or the rod bearings. The reason is we need this thing running ASAP so we can get groceries and medication and other things. Once we get another car here to use as a family vehicle, or even if it's just a two-seater, just to get groceries, like if I just go by myself, then we can, I guess, afford the risk or afford the time, so to speak, to pull this engine out and then go through it, because the parts aren't expensive, but being down on a running vehicle is what it is. But yeah, went ahead and put the horn thing back on. These I mean, I know it's not summer yet, so, but what I'm hoping for is by the time summer hits, the duct tape will cure, so to speak. Old duct tape, well, Gorilla Tape anyway, once it's off of its roll, it like hardens and things happen to it. Aviators. I love these glasses. I don't know, I mean, whatever. But the yeah, our family vehicle. In time, this will also be removed. We have some trips up north we gotta take to pick up the 67 Tempest. So, you know, not as easy to start as my Edelbrock cars. However, not really even improvement in gas mileage either. I don't know how I feel about this Quadrajet, but it's factory stock, and that's just how I'm gonna leave it for now. We have, you know, a working fuel gauge, a working odometer. Radio comes on but doesn't do anything. The defrost, obviously. Oh, that's for the fan for the rear heat. Yeah, that doesn't work. And the clock. My son was talking about that. That doesn't work either. So you can't get too crazy with the Buicks when they're cold because of that aluminum timing cover, which is really poor design, really. But it is what it is. Buick makes great torque. I firmly believe, and this may not be a popular opinion, but after seeing the architecture of that block, which is a very lightweight block, I think that cast iron intake holds everything together. It expands and contracts with heat cycles at the same rate that the block and heads do. So as far as longevity goes, my opinion, which again will differ from others, is that the factory iron intake, well, if it's the 4-barrel from like 1970, is best left on. Ported if possible, but left on. I don't know. Those blocks are very flimsy. There's not a whole lot going on there, which is great because they're lightweight. They're only 50 pounds heavier than the small block Chevy in the same exact configuration, but not exactly what I would call trustworthy.